They chose to involve themselves with someone else during that time. It did not happen because you lacked value or because you were not good enough for them. It did not happen because you were simple to replace or easily forgotten in their life. It happened because something deep inside their own mind was completely unprepared to face a connection that was genuine and real. They were terrified of the depth you offered, and so they ran toward what felt manageable. Now they are carrying an emotional message inside themselves that they can no longer ignore, pretend is not there, or keep hidden away from the world. What they want to say to you right now is not easy for them to admit. It is not comfortable for them to think about, because it forces them to look at their own weakness. While they were physically present in another relationship and trying to build a life somewhere else, an important part of them never truly left you. Emotionally, they were still tied to the bond you shared, and that heavy truth has now become impossible for them to deny to themselves any longer. They wake up with it, and they go to sleep with it every single day. Have you ever felt like a deep connection never truly ended, even when everything on the surface told you it was over? Have you ever known deep down that a story was not finished just because someone walked away? Something between the two of you stayed unfinished and remained quietly present in the background of your mind all along. That quiet background is exactly where they have been living this entire time. They have not been living in the past exactly, but they have been stuck in a strange space where the truth was merely delayed rather than being erased completely. Because a real soulful connection does not just disappear when things get difficult. It waits patiently beneath the surface, and it remains alive despite the distance. Eventually, that truth grows too loud, and it asks to be seen clearly without any more doubt or excuses. If you want to know the full truth about why they came back with this urgent message after spending time with someone else, hit the like button right now to align with this energy. They chose what felt safe and predictable instead of what felt true and deep for them at that time in their life. They moved toward what was familiar and easy, rather than leaning into what was quietly calling them from deep inside their heart with real strength. They held on tight to what was simple to avoid, instead of stepping into a relationship that could have actually changed them in a real, deep, and lasting way. They were too afraid of transformation, so they settled for a life that did not require them to grow. In doing this, they successfully convinced themselves for a long time that comfort was exactly the same thing as peace. They told themselves they were happy, even though something deep within them kept questioning that choice every single day. They stayed where things felt entirely predictable, where emotions did not demand too much vulnerability, and where they could remain in complete control of their environment without much effort. But deep down in their quietest moments, there was always a persistent awareness that something far more meaningful had been left behind with you. They left behind something that required far more courage than they were ready to give at that specific time in their life journey. Once that painful understanding began to settle deep within them, it did not fade away softly as the weeks passed by. It did not disappear over time at all like they hoped it would. Instead, it stayed with them intensely during the exact moments they could not run from themselves or distract their mind with busy work. It showed up constantly in the quiet evenings when the rest of the world was asleep. It appeared in the silent pauses between their daily conversations with their new partner. It filled the empty space where their thoughts became louder than anything else happening around them. The feeling did not loudly ask for their attention, but it absolutely refused to be ignored by them anymore. It remained present in a steady, quiet, and heavy way, constantly reminding them that something precious inside had been left unresolved for far too long. No matter how much they tried to move forward with their life, this heavy awareness stayed right behind all of their actions. It was quietly shaping how they felt about everything else in their daily routine. In the deep silence between ordinary conversations and in the endless repetition of days that slowly started to blend into one another, they began to notice how little their life was truly asking from them at that point. Everything around them felt manageable, but it also felt incredibly limited and empty. It was as if their personal growth had been entirely replaced with a boring routine over time. They started to see with total clarity how much of their real self they had been holding back just to keep things simple and easy to handle. They were living a watered-down version of life just to avoid challenges. They purposefully avoided deeper questions, they avoided stronger emotions, and they actively avoided situations that might challenge who they were deep inside. Over time, this constant avoidance created a massive sense of distance within their own soul. It was a terrible feeling that they were physically present in their own life, but not actually engaged with it in any meaningful way. That quiet distance slowly became a heavy weight that was impossible to ignore any longer. What they had built with the other person may have appeared perfectly stable and happy on the surface, but it did not carry the same depth, meaning, or emotional weight as what they had with you. What they shared with you had something entirely different. It had a spark that reached deeper and stayed much longer in their heart than anything else they have ever experienced. Things that are truly meaningful do not just disappear because someone decides to walk away from them for a while out of fear. Those meaningful things remain present in the background of the mind, waiting quietly to be acknowledged without any pressure or expectations. They do not demand immediate attention, but they absolutely do not fade away either over the passing days. Over time, these buried feelings begin to rise to the surface again. They do not come back in dramatic or loud ways, but they show up in subtle, persistent reminders that something incredibly important had once existed between the two of you. At some point recently, they finally stopped pretending to themselves. This did not happen in one sudden realization, and it did not happen through a dramatic moment of clarity. It happened slowly, honestly, and quietly, in a way that felt both incredibly uncomfortable and intensely real at the same time. They finally admitted to their own reflection that they were never fully alive in the place they chose to stay in during that period. They had to admit that something important had always been missing from their life, even if they tried their best not to see it clearly before. They recognized that no matter how much they tried to convince themselves they had moved forward, a part of them was still emotionally unfinished with you. This internal awareness did not come to them with ease at all. It came with a painful, quiet honesty that forced them to look directly at their own decisions without making any more excuses or hiding behind distractions. If you have ever felt a connection never truly ended, even when they were with someone else, comment the words, "Still here, right now," to claim this message. They came to understand that they never truly gave your connection a fair chance in the past. This did not happen because the connection lacked meaning or value to them, but because it required immense personal courage from them. It required a level of emotional openness they were simply not prepared for at that specific time in their personal journey. They were too guarded, too broken, and too afraid of what it meant to truly love someone. Your connection required the kind of courage that asks a person to show up entirely without protection, to face the terrifying possibility of rejection, and to allow themselves to feel deeply without knowing the outcome ahead of time. It meant risking deep emotional pain, risking massive life changes, and risking becoming an entirely different person because of what they felt inside. Instead of stepping bravely into that beautiful space with you, they chose to step away from it. They chose temporary safety over long-term growth at that moment, even though a part of them knew exactly what they were leaving behind. Now that awareness carries an emotional message they could not express to you before. It is not a perfect message. It is not carefully shaped to sound nice, and it is not asking for sympathy or pity from anyone. It simply exists as a quiet, steady, and unshakable truth within them that they cannot ignore anymore. They understand everything now, and they see what you truly represented in their life with completely new eyes. They recognize clearly that what they were avoiding was never truly you as a person. They were actually avoiding the unhealed parts of themselves that they were not ready to face honestly. They were running from their own shadows, not from your light. And that massive realization shifts something deep inside them in a lasting, permanent manner. It completely changes how they look at their past, how they view their choices, and how they understand what truly mattered most to them. It is not a loud or explosive change, but it is a permanent one that stays with them through every waking hour. Because once a person clearly sees their own avoidance, they can never unsee it, no matter how hard they try. They cannot return to pretending that nothing happened or that your connection did not matter at all. Whether they choose to reach out to you today or remain completely silent out of shame, something deep inside them has already changed in a lasting way. The heavy illusion they were living in has broken apart completely, and that total collapse brings both immense discomfort and perfect clarity to their mind. It forces them to sit alone with the truth of what they avoided, and to accept the emotional weight that comes with that awareness every single day. There is no easy way for them to escape it once it becomes completely clear in their thoughts. What you need to hold on to tightly is this truth above everything else. None of this situation was ever a reflection of your worth, your beauty, or your value as a person. It was always a reflection of their emotional readiness and their complete inability to face what they felt at that time. Type yes if you want me to reveal the real reason they could not fully leave you emotionally. You were absolutely not replaced by someone better in any way, shape, or form. You simply crossed paths with someone who did not yet possess the capacity or the maturity to meet you where you were standing, and now they are standing completely alone in the painful result of their own choices, carrying the heavy weight of everything they avoided, delayed, and left unresolved. Whether they speak to you about it or not, that is the real impact for them in their life right now. It is not a dramatic return, and it is not an immediate confession, but it is the truth slowly settling into their awareness over time. You were real, and real connections leave a permanent mark that cannot be erased by convenience, distraction, or avoidance of any kind. They want you to understand that their past choices were never about your value, but entirely about their own fear and their lack of emotional readiness back then. The hesitation, the long distance, and the painful inconsistency all came from their internal fear, not from a lack of understanding of what you meant to them. And now that fear has finally been faced, it has left them far more aware, far more honest, and much more conscious of the consequences of how they handled something that truly mattered deeply. They are carrying a clarity that feels incredibly heavy, undeniable, and impossible to ease with cheap excuses or simple explanations any longer. In that clarity, they can now clearly see what they ignored, what they delayed, and what can no longer be easily reversed or changed. They see the deep effect their silence, their inconsistency, and their avoidance had on someone who truly deserved full presence, honesty, and real effort from them. This awareness does not come to them with any comfort at all. It comes with a steady, painful understanding that stays with them without rushing. It does not fade away quickly in their days. Instead, it sits quietly within them, reminding them of every single moment they chose distance over truth and hesitation over honesty in the past. This is not a request or a plea for anything to return to how it was. It is not asking for reconciliation or another chance at this time. It is simply the undeniable truth of what happens when a real connection is left behind. It is simply an admission on their part, a quiet form of understanding that only comes after a long period of deep reflection and personal growth on their side of the situation. They recognize completely the immense courage you showed just by being emotionally open with them, by asking for total honesty, and by refusing to accept half-effort or unclear attention from them when you were together. And in that recognition comes both a deep sense of respect and a heavy sense of regret at the exact same time within their heart. They feel an intense respect for your personal honesty and your inner strength, and they feel a profound regret for not being brave enough to meet you at that same emotional level when it truly mattered most in the past. That regret is not loud or dramatic in any visible way at all to the people around them. It is quiet, completely internal, and always present just beneath the surface of their daily thoughts. It appears constantly in their late-night thoughts, when the rest of the world is completely quiet. It shows up in those random, quiet moments when they cannot find a way to distract themselves from reality, and in old memories they try to suppress but cannot fully push away from their mind. It continues to remind them of the beautiful chances they let pass them by, the honesty they actively avoided out of fear, and the rare connection they did not protect when they had the actual chance to do so before. This heavy feeling does not shout out loud for attention, but it never completely disappears from their mind for a single day. It stays entirely steady and constant inside them, slowly shaping how they now understand their past and the poor decisions they made during that specific time in their life. What they want you to understand most clearly right now is that this situation is not just about them missing physical comfort or simple familiarity with you. It goes much deeper than that in the very core of their heart. It is about them finally understanding what a real, soulful connection actually feels like, and realizing that something genuine cannot simply be replaced by someone else or ignored easily for very long. In every single decision they made back then, there was still a part of them that remained fully aware of you all along the way. They were always aware of the deep truth they were choosing not to express out loud to you at the time. That internal awareness never left them completely, even when they were trying to build something new with another person. It only grew stronger and louder over time, slowly turning into a brilliant clarity that they can no longer deny, fight against, or avoid in their daily life. They are absolutely not asking you for your forgiveness right now, and they are not trying to force any kind of sudden decision or response from you at all. They are simply offering you the raw truth of their realization, which is something they were physically and emotionally unable to express to you before this exact point in their journey. This is their absolute truth presented to you in a quiet, humble, and honest way without any performance, manipulation, or exaggeration of any sort. This realization comes from a person who finally sees with perfect clarity what was standing right in front of them all along, and they now carry that understanding with full personal responsibility for their actions. There is absolutely no attempt on their part to rewrite the past, to make excuses for their behavior, or to make the situation seem different from what it actually was. Share this message right now with someone you know who is still waiting for total clarity from a person who foolishly chose safety over truth. There is only an honest effort on their part to acknowledge what was completely real between you and what it truly meant to them in the grand scheme of their life. The message they carry is not about changing what has already happened in the past, because they know they cannot turn back the clock. It is about fully accepting the reality of it, without running away into the shadows anymore. They are no longer running away from the intense emotions they once avoided for so long out of pure cowardice. They are no longer dividing their emotional attention among others or hiding behind comfortable silence and easy distraction like they used to do before. They have finally faced their own hesitation, their own emotional distance, and their deep-seated fear of being truly vulnerable with themselves. And through that long, painful internal process, they have come to realize something incredibly important and crystal clear in their mind. The person they hesitated to fully show up for, the person they pushed away because the feelings were too big, was always you without a single doubt. And that truth now carries a massive, heavy emotional weight that cannot be ignored any longer by them. That massive realization has completely reshaped how they understand human connection, true honesty, and real emotional presence in their life. They are a completely different person now in terms of their awareness, even if the past itself cannot be altered or fixed at all. Even if they never find the courage to act on what they feel or reach out to you directly, the understanding they carry will never disappear from their soul. It remains a part of them forever because they now see you clearly for who you truly are. They do not see you as a casual option. They do not see you as something easily replaceable, but they see you as a deeply meaningful connection that they were simply not mature enough or ready for at the time. That truth stays with them through every experience, and it constantly shapes their thoughts and follows them into future relationships where real emotional depth appears again in life. What comes next in this story is no longer guided by confusion, games, or uncertainty for them. It becomes entirely about conscious choice, your personal choice, your total clarity, and your incredible ability to stay grounded in your own truth and self-respect moving forward. Take a brief moment right now and sit with this message fully. Allow your soul to feel the heavy weight of what has passed between you and what may still be possible ahead in your own beautiful journey. Trust your sharp instincts, listen to your quiet inner voice, and lean into the immense strength you have developed over time through your own painful experiences. You already know exactly what feels right for you deep inside your own heart. You already understand perfectly what you deserve from a partner in this life. And now, with full, mature awareness of both their internal growth and your own personal evolution, the next step in your life can be taken with absolute clarity, perfect calm, total confidence, and steady self-respect. On the outside surface of things, someone may appear to be fully committed elsewhere, or they may seem focused in another direction in life completely. But emotionally, spiritually, and psychologically, a major part of them can still remain tightly connected to something they never fully understood, appreciated, or resolved before they left. This is not about betrayal in a simple, surface-level way, but it is about the deeper, far more complex nature of human attachment, deep-seated fear, and personal growth that develops very slowly over the course of time. What makes this specific situation so powerful is the massive role that hidden fear plays in shaping life decisions that people often do not fully understand while they are making them in the heat of the moment. Fear quietly influences human choices far more than most people are ever willing to admit in their daily lives. The fear of true closeness, the fear of being completely vulnerable, the fear of losing total control over one's emotions, and even the terrifying fear of facing one's own emotional truth can easily lead someone to divide their attention or completely avoid what they truly feel inside. In those chaotic moments of fear, they may move quickly toward other connections, not because of real love or compatibility, but simply because of comfort, easy distraction, or the desperate need to avoid deeper feelings completely. At the exact same time they are with someone else, the person they were deeply and authentically connected to remains vividly present in their daily thoughts, even if they never speak about it openly with anyone else around them. That beautiful presence continues through vivid memories, sudden quiet comparisons in their head, and unspoken thoughts that stay with them through the day. It shapes their internal emotional world in ways that are not always visible from the outside to their friends or family, but are strongly and deeply felt within the walls of their heart.